No, it was postponed.
No, it's fine. No, it's definitely worth 4 people. Absolutely.
Where did you get the cap from for the water?
What did you say?
Where did you get the cup from?
Oh, I found it in the kitchen.
Oh, it's locked now.
No, it's not locked. It's open.
I locked it.
It was open. Okay, so we are going to continue from Lamed. Yeah. No, Lamed. Second. No, Mem. Yeah. Definitely. No, we're definitely in business. Yeah. No.
Jerry. Yes.
Yeah, we reinstated. We reinstated. Okay. Okay, here we go. So we're up to the Machlokas Abai and Rabbo. That's what we're up to up there. Abai and Rabbo seem to debate the following point. If a person deposits something, we're on Mem Hey Omid base. If a person deposits something with Adam, that means to say you give something to look after, you don't. So the question is, does he need whatever you give it to him for? The question is, does he need to return it with Adam or not? Does he need to return it with Adam or not? That means to say like this. If we hold that a person who deposits something with Adam, he has to also return it with Adam, the guy has to give it back with Adam, then that severely limits his ability to say, I already returned it. Because if you returned it, where are the witnesses? There's no witnesses. And the halacha is you have to return it with Adam, if we say that's the halacha, right? So it really limits his ability to say, well, I gave it back. And why is that relevant? Because the story we're talking about is where you gave something to a craftsman, a tailor, or a person who dyes clothes, or a cleaning man or woman, right? And you give it to them to do something, and they say, well, actually, we gave it back already, right? Or they didn't say that, but they said it's mine. And the question is, have they got a migoy? That was the whole Gemora, right? Since he could have said, it never happened, or I gave it back to you, or whatever. Therefore, he's believed to say, I bought it. I'm believed to say I bought it, right? However, that only works if he could have given it back, because then you got a migoy, right? You got a migoy. Since I could have said I gave it back to you, believe me when I say that I bought it from you, essentially. Okay. Remember, there's the logical starting point and assumption is that he's in the back foot. He's on the back foot. So that means to say, if you give your garment to be dry cleaned, yes, the dry cleaner is on the back foot if he wants to claim ownership. Because most of the time, you give your clothes to dry cleaner and expect them back. Yeah. And therefore, for him to claim ownership, he's in a bit of a difficult place. He needs something to support his argument. Okay? Now, Amigo could be strong enough. Since he could have said, I give it back to you and no one will be any the wiser. Right? Therefore, believe him when he says, I bought it from you. Okay?
Why did I give it back to you stronger than I bought it? Or vice versa?
Because the better lie. It's a better lie. It's a better lie. If I was lying, yeah, it's a better lie for me to say, to completely say you're talking nonsense. You understand? There's 2 people here, the Toyan and the Nitan. The claimant walks in the shop and says, you stole my garment, right? Now, think about it. If he's going to lie, it's a much better thing to say, you're talking nonsense. Yes, you gave me a garment to fix, but I gave it back to you last week. That's a much better lie than saying, it's true, I've got it, but I bought it from you. That's not as good a lie.
That requires a lot of explanation.
Right? Well, it requires a lot of explanation. No, and it's more than that. It means I'm admitting that your garment is in my house.
But if you're saying
I've got an explanation why it's in my house.
I think you covered that. I mean,
You understand?
If you're giving it back, you admitted it was in your house. There's a historical that it was in your house.
Well, I've got no choice because you gave it to me with Adam.
This is
Yeah, I've got no choice. If it wasn't given with Adim, then I'm even better than that, because I could say that I never took it, I never got it, it never existed. It's never existed.
Give it back to him. You need Adim.
So just one question.
Yeah.
He deposits it with Aiden.
Yeah.
And then takes it back with Aiden?
No, the point is that that all of this turns on, at least how we're understanding it now, on the halacha of whether someone who deposits something with Adim, does he have to return it with Adim as well?
Return it. He gave it to them. Have to
Give it back, yeah, give it back with Adim as well.
Take it back.
Give it back.
How do you give back from what you deposited?
Pardon?
If I deposit with you, take it back from you. I'm not returning it.
No, I give something to you as a deposit.
Right.
So the question is, are you obligated to return it in front of Adim? And if you didn't, you can't claim that you returned it, because it's obviously not true.
Then I give it to you anytime there's Aiden concerned.
Correct. There's Adim who observe the transaction.
If he doesn't come collect it twice because he gave it to you, you give it back.
Yeah, it's just going there and back. It's just
No, but the point again. The point here is the point here is that again, like we said before, like we said last time, there are two potential points this whole debate turns on. One is this question of whether I'm limited because I can't say I gave it back to you, because if I did say that, you would say to me, well, where are the witnesses? If you require returning with witnesses as well. Yeah, but I can also be limited for another, because of another factor, and that is, do we currently see the item in your house or not? Because obviously I'm going to be more limited again what I can say if the item is there now on the shelf. If the item is on my shelf, I can't say I gave it back, can I? Because it's there. So I have to have another story. There is another story you can create, right? You can say it's true you gave it to me, but basically it's true that I've got it. However, you sold it to someone else and they sold it to me or whatever, right? Someone else sold it to me, it didn't come from you. There are all sorts of other things I could say, okay? But that's only if there was no agent, okay?
Yeah.
There was no agent for the transaction at the beginning when it was given over to him, right? So the point is that Rabbi says, okay, Rabbi says that a person who hands over something to someone else with Adim, he has to always return it with Adim, and therefore he's got no migo. Because what's he going to say? He's saying you sold it to me, okay? But we don't believe you because you're a tailor or a dry cleaner. So we don't believe you that you bought it, right? Unless you have a migo. What's your migo? Since I could have said, what? I returned it? You can't say that, because then I would say, and the other guy would say, well, where's your witnesses, right? So you can't say that. What are you going to say? Nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say. And even if we don't see the item in your house now, you still have no migo. You still have no migo. Why? Because what can he say? He can't say I gave it back because you need witnesses. So he's stuck, right? And therefore that's why Rabbah says if the transaction at the beginning happened with Adim, you're finished. There's no migo and you got to give it back. Finished, right? You're exposed as a thief, and we assume you're whatever, right? Abai says no. Abai says that you have a good migo because even if there was no Adim, you can return it without Adim, and therefore you can say I give it back. Okay. All right.
It's all the case that the second party return though, and the first party deposited to come to collect it.
Makes no difference. Again,
is that the one?
again, we don't know where the item is now.
That's the point.
Well, we don't. Well, we maybe we do, maybe we don't. We can cover ourselves both ways. We can talk about where you see it hanging up, and we can talk about where you don't see it hanging up. Either way that works.
And it's not financial. It's not like you give £20. It's a different matter.
It's an item to fix.
Yeah.
It's an item to fix. Yeah.
Is that the one nafkamina that we just discussed? Or are there other nafkaminas on the return there? Is that the one?
Well, the main nafkamina that we're concerned with is again, you have to bear in mind that there's a whole lot of stuff going on underground here, like as in what's in their minds and have their logical thing. If you were lying, you could have said a better argument, whatever. But what is going on above ground is a very simple exchange. Okay, you walk into the shop and you say, "Where's my clothes? Where's my coat? I gave it to you a week ago to dry clean." Right? What does the other guy say? You sold it to me. That's all that goes on. That is all that goes on in the conversation. No one debates what they say. The whole question is there what's the degree of believability?
There's no receipt, no.
Yeah, whatever. There's no receipt. There's it's not a question of receipt. It's a question of it will hinge on whether or not the handing over happened with Adam or not. But what I'm trying to say is that we know what they say. We know what the facts are. The facts are, I'm claiming it's mine, and you're claiming it's yours. And what are you saying? What are you saying? You're saying you bought it. That's what you're saying, right? The question is, can we be believed or not? Okay. And Abai says that you can be believed even if the original exchange happened with Adam. And Rabbah says you can't. If the original exchange happened with Adam, you can't be believed because you've got no migo. That's the debate, right? And on that, Abai asks a question from a Brisa. Okay, is that okay?
Right.
So on that, with 4 lines down from the top, Abai asked the following question: if he sees his servant in the hand of a craftsman and he sees his garment in the hand of a washer person, he says to him, what's it doing with you? And he says to him, you sold it to me or you gave it to me as a gift. He has said nothing. Okay? All right, so that's the exchange. The first exchange is where you see it there. It's hanging up on the rail. And he says, what's it doing with you? And the guy says, you sold it to me or you gave it to me as a gift. So we say he said nothing. Lo maklum.
That means we don't believe.
Yeah, because an uman has no chazaka. But if he says to him, in front of me, you told him to sell it, or you told him to give it as a gift, or to give it to me as a gift, then his words are established, his words are correct. Now that seems to imply you told so-and-so to sell it or to give it to me as a gift. Now the Gemora has a bit of a diversion here just to explain what's going on. Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. We did this last time. What is the difference in the first case and what is the difference in the second case? Rabba says Seifa b'yotzi mitachas yidei acher. The second case is a totally different scenario. The second case is where the talis is no longer with the cleaning man, the cleaning shop, right? It's no longer there. It's no longer at the dry cleaners. Where is it now? It's in someone else's hands. Okay? The ko'omale acher, and the other guy says to the person who claims to be the owner, B'fonai, in front of me, Omar Tolo, you said to the dry cleaner, L'mochroi v'litna b'matona, to sell it or to give it as a gift to me. Migo, since that person who's now got it, this is the third person who's now got it in his house, he can say, you sold it to me. He's not a dry cleaner. He can say, we apply the regular principles of if I go into Paul's house and I say, that nice looking shirt on Paul's shelf is mine, right? What rules do we apply? I've got to prove it. Yeah? So here, he can say, and here's slightly different, because here we know that the original owner was Reuven. That's not debatable. We know the original owner was Reuven, right? But he's got a straightforward migo. Since he can say, I bought it from you, when he says as well, that in front of me, you told him to sell it to me. You told him to sell it to me. Dvar Kayom, and his words are established at Mehemon, and he is believed. Okay?
Who's selling? Dry cleaner or
One second, Mehemon, who do I love woman? He's not okay, yeah. Yeah. So sorry, what was that?
Who is actually selling this in front of?
No. So in there are two different cases here. The first case is where there are two people involved, right? There is Reuven and there is John, the dry cleaner. He's Jewish, John. Yeah. And he says to him, and Reuven comes into the shop and says, that coat is mine. Okay. And here's where it's viewable. It's there. It's there. It's what is it doing in your shop? Why? You know. And he says to him, well, you sold it to me, right? That's what he says. What? He says you sold it to me. So he says, you can't be. So the halacha is, he said nothing. You can't do that. Why not?
Because it's
yeah. Well, we're going to investigate the case a little bit more and see what Abaya's question is from there. But basically, it's got no migo. He's got exactly. He's not believed, right? Now, the second case though is where there's three people involved. So there's Reuven, John, and Shimon. And the garment currently is in Shimon's house. It's in Shimon's house. Reuven knocks on Shimon's door and says, you know that coat, that's mine. And Shimon says, what are you talking about? I was standing there when you said to John that he should sell it to me or give it to me as a gift. So there, Shimon is believed. Why? Because Migos, since he could have said, if he was lying, he would have said a much better lie. What would he have said? You saw? No, you can't say that. because we know it was originally Reuven.
Okay.
That's not up for debate. There are
Yeah.
Edom that used to belong to Reuven, so that's not something he can say. But what he can say is, he said, I bought it from you. He can just knock John out of the picture. If he was lying, he would have said, what are you talking about? Dry cleaner, this, I don't know anything. All I know is that I bought it from you fair and square on eBay. You understand? That's what he could have said, right?
Yeah, no.
If he was lying. Yeah? You understand how Migo works, right? It's a better lie. If you're a liar, say a better lie.
And he's not an Uman.
He's not an Uman, exactly. He's not an Uman. Uman can never say that. An Uman is not believed to say. Anyone who's a tradesperson is not believed to say, I bought it from you. Because tradespeople have that, as we said, they got their evidential thing stacked against them because they're supposed to be working on the item, not keeping it, not buying it, right? Okay? So they've got that thing stacked against them. This guy is not that. He's a regular Jew. He's a regular Joe. He doesn't have that problem. So if he was lying, he could have said a much better lie. I bought it straight from you, Reuven. There's no cleaning man involved. Yeah. And therefore we believe him when he says that in front of me, okay, in front of me, you told him to sell it to me. All right. Now let's see where Abai has got a question on Rabbah from this. So we are up to, again, about halfway down the Omid. Katoni mias Reisha, we say at least in the Reisha of the first case, raw. He sees the item. He sees the item. Hey Chidomi, what's the case? Right? Hey Chidomi, what's the case? Id eko edim lomali raw. If there are witnesses, lomali raw. Why does he have to see it? Okay? If there are witnesses, why does he have to? Why do we have to say that the scenario is that he actually sees it in his house? Nesi Adim Venishko. Let him bring witnesses and take it away. Okay. If there are Adim that he actually saw him hand it over, why do we have to be describing the scenario is where the Brisa starts off by saying Ro'o Taliso Biad Kovet. He sees his garment. If there are witnesses, okay, that he handed over to him, right? Then according to Rabbah, again, this Abai challenging Rabbah, there makes no difference whether he saw it or not. Remember, Rabbah said that as long as there were witnesses there at the beginning, okay, there's no need for, it doesn't make a difference whether you see it in his house or not. That already knocks out any migo. That was Rabbah's view. Remember that? Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? Rabbah's view was, as soon as there were Adim that the transaction happened, you have no migo. Why? Because you need Aiden to return it. So therefore you can never say, we can't say, since you could have said I returned it, therefore believe me when I say that I bought it from you, but you can't say I return it, because I would then challenge that by saying, well, where are your witnesses? Okay. So therefore, Abai says, if there are witnesses, why do I have to say that he sees it? Nesi Aiden Manishka, let him just bring the witnesses and take the item away. Elolav, it must be Deleko Aiden. It must be there are no witnesses. The whole setup, the case of the Brisa is someone sees his garment. He walks into the dry cleaners on a Monday morning and he sees his nice cashmere coat and it's hanging up there. And he says, that coat is mine. Abai says the scenario cannot be that there were witnesses to the original handover. Because if there were witnesses to the original handover, it doesn't make a difference whether he sees it there now or not, according to you, Rabbah. Either way, he's not going to be believed. You understand? The Brisa is structuring a scenario. It's a classic way. One Amora will try and knock out another one. Yes? We'll bring a Brisa and we will see that the structure, the case, the setup of the Brisa, okay, does not make sense according to your view. If your view is correct, the Brisa would be set up in a different case study. It would not be a case study of this nature. It would not be a case study that talks about seeing the garments, because that's not relevant, right? If the case is that if there were witnesses, I don't need to see it or not. It makes no difference whether I see the coat there now or not, right? And therefore, it must be from the fact that the Brisa describes the scenario is when he sees the coat, it must be it's coming to tell us that there are no witnesses. And there's no witnesses to the original handover. The chira, and when he sees it in his shop, miyotofisle, he can take it. He can take it. Right? One second. He can take it. And why can he take it, says Abai? Do you know why he can take it? Because Abai says, I'm right and you're not. That when you see a garment in someone else's house, even if there are no witnesses, Okay, there are no witnesses to the original handover. That is enough. That is enough to make you unable to say anything in response. To say anything in response, right? To say anything at all, right? Where you see something, he's not believed. Where you see something, he's not. Where you see something, he's not believed. And that was the same as Abai said earlier on. Only 1 second. Right? Only when he sees it. Okay? Because Abai says that since this is something which is normally which is obviously given over for to work on, once you've seen it in his house, there's nothing you can say.
This is this is the three-party case, or is it in?
No.
This is just the
No. Three-party case was just to understand second half of the brisa. Yeah, there's only 2 people now.
Yeah, so he sees it in whose house?
Reuven sees it in the woman's house. Yeah, and he says that coat is mine, and the woman says, John says, "What do you mean? I bought it from you." The halacha is, the brisa says, not believed. Well, who hasn't said anything? Yes, he said, I bought it from you.
No, we're saying it doesn't count.
But I'm saying it doesn't count because the woman's not believed.
There's not we said.
But why not?
Normally gives it back.
Why not? If there were no Edim, he would be believed. Going to Rabbah.
But what about the chazaka?
No, according to Rabbah.
He doesn't hold by the chazaka. It's not about
what did Rabbah say?
Whether a woman holds on to things or
no, but there's another twist to it, because Rabbah says if there were no witnesses to the original handover, that's what Rabbah said. If there were no witnesses to the original handover, then the Uman is believed even if you spot the coat in his shop. Why? Because he's still got a migo. What migo could he say? No, that's what he does say. You believe him when he says he bought it from you. Migo, since he could have said, I bought it from someone else whom you sold it to, which is a better lie. I didn't buy it from you at all. I don't know. I'm never involved with you.
I thought we said it was the other way around, which was a better way. So we did say the other way around.
No.
Better way.
What's a better lie?
I bought it from you.
No, that's not such a good lie, because you've agreed. You've come halfway. So you've gone a halfway house. Again, it's always a better lie to remove yourself 100 miles away from the other guy, right?
Because
I thought we said it was the other way around.
No, we said yeah, it's a bit confusing. No, it's a bit confusing. It is confusing, but the better lie is where I do not step in your direction at all. Yes. Okay, that's a better lie. Okay, yeah. It's not such a good lie for me to say it's true what you're saying. You did own it and you gave it to me, right? But I bought it. I paid for it. Right? That's not such a good lie. It's a much better lie to say. And Rashbam spelled this out in the previous Omid. He can say. I'll just read the words to you. Even if Edim see the talis now in front of in the hands of the craftsman, skip a few a bit. Because he could have said it never happened, that you never handed it over to me. Someone else handed it over to me. That you sold it to him. And he sold it to me. Right? He's believed to say that you sold it to me directly. Because that's a better lie. It's a better lie to say that you never sold it to me. I bought it from someone else whom you sold it to. If you were lying, I'd say that I create that story. The better story to create. And therefore, what we're saying is like this. What we're saying is like this, is we're saying that Abai's challenge to Rabbah is, Abai has proven the following. He's gone through the following steps. Number one, we can't be talking about there are witnesses. Because if there were witnesses, and you are correct, if there were witnesses and you would be correct, yeah, it wouldn't make a difference whether he sees it in his house or not. Once there are witnesses, there's no migo, according to you, Rabbah. That's the first point Abai makes, right? And therefore, Abai says, I can prove to you as a result of that what? The scenario must be, because it makes this distinction between seeing and not seeing in his house, there are no witnesses, right? There are no witnesses to the original transaction. Because there are no witnesses to the original transaction, yeah, he's not believed if he's seen it in his house, right? And that is against what Rabbah says, because Rabbah didn't say that.
So my question is going to be, the two opinions held. One said that if you have witnesses, it works, but one said if you don't have witnesses, it's still the second opinion.
Yeah.
What's the half a minute? Why would he? What's the basis for saying even if you don't have witnesses, he still believes that he deposited it, so he returned it?
No, on the contrary, if there are no witnesses to the original deposit, that means there's more likely you're telling the truth. We have more grounds to believe you, because you could say you gave it back or whatever. If the item is not in your house. If the item is in your house, you can't say you gave it back, but you could say there was a different story, like someone else, you sold it, someone else who sold it to me or whatever, right? If there were no witnesses to the actual handover. Again, what we're saying is that what we're saying is that maybe we'll have 5 minutes. See if I can draw this case. Maybe that will help. What? And I can see that I'm confusing everyone. I don't want people to regret asking for the share. No, I mean, I didn't mean like, that's Sean. I didn't mean that. I meant who will come out with something rather than it's more confusing when they started. Oh, permanent marker. Oh, I see. It just seems to agree. I think it's because it stayed on for a long time. It's okay. Right, okay. Right. I didn't think you used to do that in school. All right, okay, so okay, so there's only very few people involved, which is helpful. Okay, this is Shimon, that's Reuven. Sorry, we'll call them Reuven and Shimon. We'll make it simple. All right, there's Reuven and there's Shimon. Can't even see it, right? There's Reuven and there's Shimon. You can see it, right? Reuven has a garment, and everyone knows that Reuven has a garment. There's no debate that Reuven. There's no debate about that. Understand? Everyone has a garment. Reuven knows he has a thing. Here's his talus. Here's his talus. Yeah, there's his talus, right? Now Reuven's talus is Reuven's talus is in Reuven's house at the moment. Fine. Reuven gives his talus on Monday to Shimon. Shimon is to go clean it. That's what his job is, right? The next week, the next Monday, Reuven comes along and goes to Shimon and says, why is the talus in your house? What are you doing with that talus? I want it back. It's mine. And Shimon says, you sold it to me. That's all that happens. That's all that happens. And the whole Gemora is just debating what exactly the scenario was when we do not believe Shimon, or when we don't believe Shimon, or we believe Reuven. You know.
But witnesses on the original handover.
Well, that's one of the questions.
Well, that's but witnesses on the original handover are irrelevant to that question, because we know everyone agrees. Reuven and Shimon agree that Reuven gave Shimon the talus. They're not arguing about that.
No, I tell you what, that's a fair point. But the witnesses, whether or not there were witnesses to the original handover, is exceedingly relevant to the scope of Shimon's claim. Because what does Shimon say? Shimon says back to Reuven, yeah, it's true that I've got this garment, but you sold it to me. Now, on those words alone, we can't believe Shimon, right? Why not? Because he washes clothes for a living. Yeah. He doesn't buy clothes for a living. So we don't believe him. That's the Mishnah. Uman ein lo chazaka. An Uman has no chazaka because he's less likely telling the truth, because he was given it to clean. Do you understand, right? So Shimon needs something else to back him up. And that's where it makes a critical difference as to what the original transaction was. Because if the original transaction was with Adim, and this is Rabba's position, if at least how we understood it till now, if the original transaction, the handover was with Adim, there were two Adim to that transaction, yeah, then Shimon's position, right, is vastly limited, because what could he have said other than I bought it from you? What could he have said?
But I suppose my question is,
can't. There are witnesses to show that he bought it from Reuven.
Yeah, but he bought it, okay? He handed it over to
there are witnesses. If there are Adim here, right,
yeah,
who witnessed this transaction between the two of them, right?
Talis going across.
Yeah, the talus going across. The talus going across to there, right? If there are witnesses that witness this, that witness this talus, right? Then what's Shimon going to say? We know what he says. He says, "I bought it from you," but there has to be a migoy. Since I could have said I give it back, no, you can't, because I'm afkadet chaver ba'edim. Sorry, you got to give it back with witnesses, says Rabbi, right? And there are no witnesses. I'm not going to say that, because if I say that, you're going to challenge me, right? So he's not going to say that. Okay. Again, this is all if he was lying. He's obviously not going to say something that's going to go back. He's going to come back and haunt him, and Reuven's going to say, "Well, where are the witnesses?" He can't say that, right? What could he say?
According to Rabbi.
Yeah, we're going in Rabbi.
We're already in Rabbi.
No, it's all in Rabbi. All in Rabbi. Remember, Abai to challenge Rabbi.
Yeah.
Abai has to go in Rabbah, doesn't he? He's got to go deep into Rabbah and prove him wrong. So we're in Rabbah at the moment, okay? The second thing maybe Shimon could say is, well, it's true that it's true that, right, I didn't give it back to you, but someone else sold it to me. You can't say that either, because the Edom saw Reuven sell it. So there's nothing he can say, okay? There's nothing he can say. You understand that, right? That's all Rabbah's position. Abai's question on Rabbah is like this. Clearly, this brisa must be talking about where there were no witnesses, but these witnesses didn't exist. Why? Because the brisa's setup is that he saw the talus in Shimon's hand, and he claims, "What is that talus doing in your hand? You must be a thief." And it's to that Shimon says, "You sold it to me." And then the brisa says, "You're not believed." But if there were Edom, it doesn't make a difference whether you saw the talus in his hand or not. Remember? Because according to Rabbah, it makes no difference if you see it hanging in the shop or not. If there were witnesses there, Shimon is never believed. That's what we just proved. We just proved that, yes?
Yeah.
You agree with that? We just proved that if there are witnesses there, right, Shimon is never believed. Correct? Because he's got no migo. Do you agree with that, Paul? You still look confused. We just proved that in Rabbah, all in Rabbah. We just proved that.
And I'm just thinking of another scenario, but I think the answer is we need witnesses for that as well. But I could just say, it could have started off as a giving it to you to deposit, and then after it was in his possession, he then said, I like the look of this, can I buy it from you? You then need witnesses at that point.
I like the look of it.
And just say someone, Reuven deposit.
Oh, that I bought from you afterwards. Where's the migo? What's the migo?
I'm just saying the original intent of the deposit might have changed into a.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That's not a migo. It's not a better lie.
Yeah, it's not a different case.
Yeah, it's not a better lie.
It's not another scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. So this is therefore, one second. So therefore, listen, let's just go. So this is therefore what we're saying is like this. So Abai's got a brilliant question on Rabbah, right? And actually Abai's going to succeed with this argument. Abai's going to succeed with this argument, as we're going to see. He's going to succeed to the extent that he's going to force Rabbah to change his position because of this, right? Because Abai says to him like this. The fact that the brisa sets itself up as a case of where Reuven's whole challenge is, I've seen it in your house, I've seen it, means that there's no witnesses. And therefore we see that in a case where Reuven sees the garment hanging up in Shimon's shop, he's also believed. And Shimon can't keep it. That means Shimon is not believed to say, you sold it to me. Okay.
You don't need witnesses.
Pardon? Yeah. So what we've done now, what Abai's proven is, is that, you see, Rabbah wanted to say, there are four possible scenarios. Okay, let's call it like that. I just don't make this complicated, but let's call it. Look, there's witnesses, right? Yeah. What? Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. There's witnesses. There's witnesses, and then what? Witnesses, and then the other first is S for seeing. Okay? Yeah. You understand? That's one positive. The extreme opposite is no witnesses and no seeing. Correct? You with me? Am I going to confuse things more? So what are the other two permutations?
One of that.
Yeah, exactly. So there was, let's say, no witnesses, but you did see it. And this one will be witnesses and no seeing. Okay, now beforehand, what did Rabbah say? Rabbah said, I only care about witnesses. I don't care whether you see it or not. I only care about witnesses, right? Where is Shimon not believed? Yeah, only in these two cases. Shimon is not believed. Yeah, Shimon is not believed in that case and in that case. Shimon is not believed, right? Where there are no witnesses, Shimon's home and dry. Because in the case where it was not seen, well, that's obvious, that's easy, because there's no witnesses and he didn't see it. So he can say, Miko could have said, I gave it back to you and no one will be any the wiser, right? But even in the case where you see it, we said he's also got a good argument. What's his argument? He could have said, well, you didn't send it to me, someone else. That's a better lie, right? And therefore he could have said that better lie. Do you understand? Is it coming a bit clearer now?
It's very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I said, some people like this and some people don't. It's always a bit of a challenge, yeah? Now, what has Abai done now? Abai's done a brilliant thing. Because Abai has proven that Rabba's wrong. There's another case where you won't be believed. It's true that you'll never be believed if there are witnesses. He hasn't argued. That is true, right? That doesn't change, right? But there's another case you're not going to be believed, which is what? What is the Brisa? What's the scenario of the Brisa? Yeah, the scenario of the Brisa is Ra Taliso Biaduman. He sees the talis in the hand of the other guy. That's another case you won't believe. So Abai has proven that case you're also not believed. And the only case, do you understand why? Because that's Abai, that is the scenario of the Brisa. That's what Abai proves. Look at the Gemora. Look at the Gemora. That is the scenario of the Brisa. What did you say?
Is Abai Robert only talking about a case where there aren't witnesses?
No. That's the point. Well, that's the point. The point is that Abai has proven to Rabbah from this Brisa. Yeah, Abai has proven to Rabbah. You Rabbah wanted to say that the only thing you're interested in is witnesses, and if there are Eidim, Shimon's not believed. But if there are no Eidim, Shimon's always believed. I'm going to prove to you that even if there are no witnesses, if he sees the item in his house, Shimon's got no migoy. He's got no migoy if he sees the item in his house, right? That's what this Brisa says. Because this Brisa, he says, must be talking about where there are no witnesses. Why? Because if there are witnesses, I don't care whether I see the item or not, according to you. Yeah, that's what we just said, according to Rabbah, right? So it must be that there are no witnesses. There are no witnesses, and the key point is because you saw the item in his house, he's got no migoy. All right, and therefore, he says you must be wrong. There must be no witnesses, and when he sees it, he's allowed to keep it. All right. So the Gemara says, do you understand? So what are we left with then? What are we left with? Yeah, the only scenario where Shimon will be believed is where there are no witnesses and he didn't see the item. So the Gemara says, no. The case of the Brisa was where there is witnesses and he saw the item. There is witnesses and he saw the item. That was the scenario. It was both. It was both witnesses and he saw the item. You said that someone who deposits with his friend with witnesses, he needs to pay him back with witnesses. So therefore, you don't need to see the item, right? Once there are witnesses, even if the item is not viewed, yeah, you're not believed.
There should have been witnesses.
Once there are witnesses, Abai says, but you just said that if there are witnesses, everything else is irrelevant. That's what you just said. So Omalei responds to him and he says, Hadribi, I changed my mind. I'm choser. I retract what I originally said. Okay? The Rashbam will explain this very clearly. Let's see the Rashbam. It's about 4 lines down, and don't worry if you're not clear, the Rashbam will spell it all out. Idika Edim, 4 lines down where it gets wide. Idika Edim, if there are witnesses, Shemosa lo, that he handed it over to him, right? Loma li ra. Why do we have to see it? Maybe this is the question of Abai. If the witnesses, he handed it over, Loma li ra, why does he have to see it in his house? Ha'atu da'amras, you Rabbah said, lo shanu ela Shemosa lo be'edim. The whole thing only applies if he handed it over with witnesses, lo shana ra, lo shana lo ra. No different whether he sees it or he doesn't see it. Omris, you said, the Ein Uman Mehemon, that a craftsman is not believed. Right? That's what you said. Because since he deposited it with witnesses, he has to return it with witnesses. And why does it say that if he sees it, he's not believed? It would make sense. Why does it go to his seeing? The implication is that if he didn't see it, he is believed. The implication being that he doesn't need to return it with witnesses. Right? And that can't be right. That's what it implies. That's what it implies, right? If it was talking about witnesses, yeah, it can't make a distinction between seeing and not seeing. That's what Shram is saying, yeah? That is the question of Abai, right? According to you, Rabbah, if there are witnesses there, it makes no difference whether or not it was seen or not. So it can't be talking about whether there are witnesses. That's Abai's proof, right? And therefore the scenario must be what? That there are no witnesses, right? There are no witnesses, and when it's seen in the hand of the uman, he's allowed to. He may balabais. The owner is allowed to take it, and he can take it away from him, right? Alma. So we see Abai says, I will prove to you that where he sees it, even if he didn't hand it over to the witnesses, the uman is not believed. The kasha Rabbah, and this is a question on Rabbah. This is a question on Rabbah. The Omeru says the heichad mosa shelo ba'edim, the where he hands it over without witnesses, lo shna ra, lo shna lo ra, meheman uman. The craftsman is always believed, right? Is always believed. So in other words, what Abai wanted to say was like this. Abai's question is that you, Rabbah, wanted to say that wherever there are no witnesses, he's always believed. That's what you wanted to say. Wherever there are no witnesses, always believed, right? The Shimon is always believed, right? There are no witnesses, yeah? And I'll prove, and I've proven to you that the scenario of this brisa is where there are no witnesses. There are no witnesses. And as soon as you see it in his house, right, the craftsman is not believed. The craftsman, there was that case, he's not believed, right? Okay. And therefore you Rabbah said that wasn't the case. Remember, according to Abai, we've been dealing in Rabbah all the time. According to Abai, everything depends on whether you saw it. That's all Rabbah's interested in. Remember, Rabbah doesn't make a difference about witnesses. According to Rabbah, what cases is Shimon not believed? That one and that one. Because according for Abai, that's the key. If you saw it in his house, okay, yeah, and he's proven from the brisa, seemingly, right, that this case, this is the critical case. That case, you Rabbah must agree to. Okay, but Rabbah has an answer. Look at the Lex Rashbam. The rest of it. Mashani Rabbah, and Rabbah answers, Lo no. In reality, where he did not hand it over with witnesses, the craftsman is. So again, so it's getting a bit confusing here. But where he did not hand it over with witnesses, there were no witnesses like NW. There was no witnesses, yeah, right? There were no witnesses. Halacha is the craftsman is believed, right? That's what Rabbah says. Yeah, okay, right. Now, Bafilu Ra, and even if it was seen, yeah, even if it was seen, that's Rabbah's argument. Kedamin, as we said, so how's he going to explain the brisa? Here it's speaking about there are witnesses that he handed over to him. Okay, and they also saw the garment as well. There were witnesses and they saw the garment as well. Since there are both factors, there are witnesses and he saw it. Lo motzi he can't take hold of it. Shimon can't say I bought it for you. So Toras because he came to him as a deposit, there are witnesses. And there's no migoy to lo motzi can't say give it back. It's in his hand now, right? It's in his hand now. This is the worst case where he witnesses and he saw it. Now look at these critical words. But now Rabba has to change his mind. He has to retract his position. Right? Beforehand, originally he said that if there are witnesses, even if he did not see it, that case, yes, the uman has no chazaka. That's what Rabba originally said. You remember? Rabba said those two cases. Once there's witnesses, that's all I'm interested in, right? He's got no chazaka. If there are witnesses, he's got no chazaka. Doesn't matter whether you saw it or didn't see it. Why? Because there are witnesses, you've got no migo. Yeah, that's what he said, right? That's what he said, right? And now he holds the heichot de ikatarti. It's only where there are both Eidim V'Ra, Eila Chazaka. Now, Rabbah is forced to change his position and say that actually Shimon is believed in 1, 2, 3. And the only case he's not believed is that. Okay? He's got to do that. He's forced to retract his position, right? But if there are witnesses and he did not see it, or that he saw it and there were no witnesses, he's got chazaka. Why? Because he's able to claim, I gave it back to you. where it was not seen in his house. We said before, you can't say I give it back if he gave it to you with witnesses. As that was Rabba's whole position. Even if he had over Edim, the Hodar Rabba's now changed his position from that which he said before, that if someone deposits something with witnesses, you have to give it back with witnesses. Okay?
Why did you change it?
Because there's no other way. It's brilliant. The logic is brilliant. Because there's no other way of explaining the brisa. He's stuck in a corner. You have to remember, there's a brisa which says that Ruvain sees his item in Shimon's house. He turns around to Ruvain and says, "Can I have my thing back, please?" And Shimon says, "You sold it to me." And the brisa says, "You're not believed." Right? That's all it says. Because, and Abai says to Rabbah, actually explained, right? The case can't be Eidim, because if they're Eidim, we're not interested in whether he sees it or not. That was his whole logical argument. And therefore, Abai says, therefore, it must be that the brisa is talking about where there were no witnesses. And you see that I'm right. I'm right, that the witnesses are not relevant, right? The witnesses are not relevant. And it's all to do whether you see it in his house, which is what Abai wanted to say. The only way Rabbah can extricate himself from that predicament, is to change his position. It's like a game of chess. You understand? Because if he's got two ways of understanding the brisa. There's only Abai's way or Rabbah's, or this new way. Okay, either he understands the brisa like Abai, but if he understands the brisa like Abai, then he is admitting that the only relevant factor is what? Is if you see it hanging up now.
As opposed to witnesses.
As opposed to witnesses. Because that's how Abai says, I'll prove to you. That's what he's talking about. What's his only get-out clause? His only get-out clause is to retract his original position, that all we're interested in is witnesses, ostensibly, but the only case where Shimon is not believed, that if there are no witnesses, Shimon must be believed. That's Rabbah's critical position. There are no witnesses, Shimon is believed. Is that right? Is that right? You agree with that? Yeah. Unlike Abai. Abai's position is, I'm not interested in witnesses. If you see the item, that's it, right? That was Abai's position. Rabbah wants to rest on the position of that Shimon, the Shimon is only believed if there are, if that Shimon is only believed, that Shimon is only believed where there are, that Shimon can never be believed with witnesses, right? That's what he wants to say, okay? Remember, that's Rabbah's position. Rabbah wants to say they can never be believed with witnesses, right? Okay?
Why? Because witnesses.
No, because one second. So that the only way he can do that is by admitting that witnesses alone are not enough. That you also that for Reuven to get it, he has to also see the item.
Because of the structure of the brisa.
Yes. Yes, correct. It's set up that way.
Witness-free brisa.
Exactly. No. He says it's not witness-free. He says it's witness plus. The only way he can explain the brisa to fit in with his position is by changing his position. Originally, his position was, I'm interested in his witnesses, right? If there are witnesses, you're finished. Yeah. If there are witnesses, if there are witnesses, then Shimon cannot say anything. But the brisa adds this new factor in, which is seeing it in his house. What's he going to do with that, right? The only way he can do it then is to reimagine his position. That his position is not that witnesses alone are enough, but you need witnesses plus seeing it in his house. If there are witnesses and the item is spotted in his house, then he's got no migoy. But let's say there were witnesses, right? But it wasn't seen in his house. Then a rabbi has to admit, you still can say a migo. We said you can't say exarativ loch. You can't say, since you could have said exarativ loch, I returned it to you. We said you can't say that. So that's where Rabbi changes his position. He says you can.
It's surprising it comes out in most cases, Shimon.
Correct. Yeah, that's what he says. Look. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah, absolutely. That's what he says. Look, let's go back again. Now Rabbi holds the where there are both factors. There are Eidim, witnesses, V'ra, and he sees it. There's no chazaka. Only when there's both factors. Only when there's both factors is Shimon not believed. Aval Eidim v'lo ra, if there are witnesses and he didn't see it. O ra v'lo Eidim, or he sees it and there are no witnesses, yesh no chazaka. Rabbi Shimon always has a chazaka, she'achol liton hechzartiv loch, because he can say, I give it back to you. Heichad v'lo ra, where he didn't see it. Aval gav them also b'Eidim. And even if he handed it over with witnesses, he can still say, I gave it back to you he can give it back to you to Hodar Bey, because he changes his mind from that which he said above. right? That he has to return with witnesses. So how much more so? If there are no witnesses and he didn't see it, right? That case, yeah, how much more so there? The Yishlet Chazaka. There he's obviously got a Chazaka, he can keep it. Or Abai, according to Abai, and according to Abai sticks to his guns, and everything depends on whether you saw it in his house. If he sees in the hand of the Uman, there's no Chazaka. And if you didn't see it, there's the Chazaka, right? If you didn't spot it in his house. And we're not worried how it was handed over, with Adam or without Adam. You just said, the Gemora said, you said, if someone deposits with witnesses, he does, he needs to return it with witnesses. How on earth can we say, since you could have said returned it? And that Rabbi says, he changes his mind, changes his position. So where we are, 1 second, summarize this quickly. No. Let me summarize it very quickly. Sorry, let me just summarize it very quickly. Yeah?
It's quite
involved, yes. There's
quite a retraction.
Yes, it is. It is a retraction like this. We originally said that Rabba's whole position was built on the witnesses, these two cases, right? And we said Abai's whole position was built on there's these two, based on seeing. Not witnesses being relevant. Abai is still sticking with that, okay? Abai is sticking with that, but we haven't changed Abai's position. Abai is the same. Abai says all I'm interested in is the site. Yeah, if it was seen in his house, then he is stuck. Why? Because as we said before, Abai's position is that in principle, an uman has no chazaka. A craftsman has no chazaka. Why does a craftsman have no chazaka? Because you took it to work on it, right? And once the item is spotted in your house, then he can't say I gave it back to you because we can see it in his house. Could he say you never gave it to me? No, we can't do that because these are things which are normally rented out. I gave the example of the hire car. You can't say I bought something. Well, you full stop. You're not believed. You're not believed to say I bought something. That's Abai's position. Abai says once you've seen it in his house, forget it. He's finished. Okay. But Rabbah's position has changed. Originally, we thought the Rabbah is only interested in the witnesses, and Rabbah says I don't care whether you saw it or didn't see it. Right? Once there are witnesses, Shimon is out the window. Why? Because of the din that someone who deposits with witnesses has to return with witnesses. Therefore, he's got no migo. He can't say since I could have returned it to you. What do you mean return it to me? You'd have to bring witnesses. That's Rabbah's forced to change that. Because the only way he can understand the brisa is that the brisa scenario is this case. There are witnesses and you saw it. That's the case that's the only way you can understand the brisa. The brisa talks about seeing. Why does brisa talk about seeing? Must be that it must be according to Rabbah that yes, of course they're witnesses, right? Because with witnesses, that's what prevents you from having any claims, okay? Because remember, he doesn't agree with Abai's principle that it's all to do with seeing, right? So as long as there are witnesses are key according to Rabbah. We're not changing that, right? But what we are saying is that even if witnesses are present,
you still have to
still have to see it in his house. Because if you did not see it in his house, so in other words, it was this case, there were witnesses, but it wasn't seen, Shimon still has a good claim. Why? Because Rabbah's changed his position and says that even if you deposit with Adim, you can return without Adim. So even in this case, he's got a migoy. What's this case? The witnesses exist here. Here are the witnesses. The witnesses see it go over, okay? Reuven knocks on Shimon's door and says, where's my thing? And Shimon says, what do you mean? I bought it from you. You sold it to me. Do you not remember? So originally we said, what are you talking about? There are witnesses, you've got no migo. What are you going to say? Migo, since you could have said I gave it back. You can't give it back. You need witnesses to give it back. That's what we're changing. Now we're saying that Rabbah's saying you don't need witnesses to give it back. And because you don't need witnesses to give it back, Shimon has a brilliant migo. 1 second. Yes, that's right. Shimon says, Rabbah is now saying you do not need to hand it back with witnesses. And therefore, even in that case, yes, Shimon has a good migo. Because even though there were witnesses to the handover, and I am now saying you sold it to me, I should be believed. Migoy, I could have said, what? I returned it to you. Because we're saying now that Rabbah holds that because you give something over with witnesses, doesn't mean you need to give it back with Adim. That's what we've changed. That's Hodribi. That's why he's choizer. That's how he changes his position. Because how else can he explain the brisa? We've got a brisa which says someone who sees the talis in the hand of someone else sees. What's it got to do with seeing? He's got two choices with this Brisa. Either he's going to learn it like Abaye, which is completely not like he said. Because Abaye says, I'm only interested in seeing. Abaye's laughing. Abaye says, I've got a Brisa which totally supports me. It talks about only seeing. You see the thing, right? There's no witnesses. That's why you need to see. Yeah, 1 second. You see, you need to see, right? That's all Abaye is interested in. So Abaye is laughing at Rabbah, not laughing literally. You understand, yeah? And Rabbah turns around to Abaye and says, no. I've got a way of explaining this Brisa. It's just going to involve a modification of my position. Because originally I said that the basic underlying principle behind my position is, well, I'm only interested in witnesses, right? Once there are witnesses, Shimon has no claim. Because there's no migo. Since I could have returned it to you, you can't return it, you have to have witnesses, right? And that's what, now he's forced to change that. He's forced to change it. Because the only way he can explain the Brisa, yes, according to his view, is to say that actually I was wrong. And actually, you need witnesses plus seeing it to prevent, let me just finish the sentence, to prevent Shimon saying, having a claim.
Witnesses on what leg? When you say witnesses and seeing, we talk about witnesses on the way in or on the way back?
No, the way in.
On the way in.
Yeah, of course, the witness is always on the way in.
Claim that he simply doesn't learn anything out from seeing the phrase that he sees in his hand. He says it's the fact of the case, it doesn't change.
No, he can't do that.
Why not?
Because he can't do that, because it makes sense. Because if everything was dependent on witnesses, then it makes no difference whether he sees it or not. So why would the Brisa set up a case like that? Why would the Brisa set up a case? The Brisa would not set up a case that deliberately misleads us.
It's not
It is. It's completely. It's not relevant. Then why to talk about it?
Because he sees it, but it's not relevant from it.
No. You can't do that. You can't do that. Why? That's Abaye's whole question. You can't do that. That's an illegal move. If the Brisa talks about a case of seeing in his hand, yeah, then it must be that that's critical to the case. Otherwise, you don't need it.
You have had in the past Gemora cases where
prove it to me. Bring it to bring.
One doesn't learn.
No. That's out there in the air. It's not going to help you here, right? It's a very, very simple procedure. Abaye says if you are correct, then the fact that he sees in his hand is irrelevant. Right? Is irrelevant. And Abaye, and therefore Rabbi is forced to modify his position. That actually what we need is Adim plus. We need Adim, that we're Adim on the original transaction, plus you see it in his hand, and now that is the only case, according to Rabbah, where Shimon is not believed, because he has no migo. There are witnesses that it went in, okay? There are witnesses that it went in, and he sees in his hand. So what migo has he got?
You mean because of the seeing, he needs to change the view that you don't need witnesses to give it back? Is that what we're saying?
Yes. Yes, exactly what we're saying. We originally thought that Rabbah's position was you have to return it with Adim. Now we see from the only way he's able to interpret the Brisa, yeah, that actually you don't need to return it with Adim. You don't need to return with Adim, which is why Shimon would be believed unless you had the additional factor of seeing in his house. Because if you saw in his house, it's got no migun. So simple. Not so simple. Sorry, we went over a little bit. Okay, good, very good. We'll carry on next week in the session.